watching me. If you're a middle-aged man sitting in front of a monitor of some sort and watching and consuming the electronic calories over your being, would you rather integrate into my story and see yourself in me, or would you rather watch Survivor or whatever the usual fare on TV is? I trust the mirror. And the more that they can see a reflection that relates to them, the more they suck into it. Day we opened, the biggest single group of people signing on were from Singapore and China. Chinese military, Singapore government, Singapore Technical Institute, etc., etc. The mind blower, of course, of all of this is that they are treating this very seriously. The first month was like early internet days. It was exciting, young and alive, and we'd go out and how many chatters are in tonight, and then chatting for hours on end. It's this whole world, and they're in your world. Who did what, and then the phone calls that came in, and while you were gone, and then you get the hacker guys come in, and this guy below would come in, and he'd start telling me how Tanya was talking to some guy or maybe cheating on me. Just enough information to make me wonder. You can't find your keys? No problem. You just yell, can somebody tell me where I left my keys? You wait 15 seconds and you go and you look and they tell you where your keys are. In a physical, real way, they're just an extension of my brain. Because I don't really ever see them. They may not be real. They may be a computer for all I know. I don't mind people watching me doing a number 2 in my bathroom, so long as they're not in my loft. If somebody was in the next room watching on the projection screen, it would be very, very uncomfortable. But as long as they're not in the facility, it's okay. The sex turned into sex and not romantic lovemaking. But I have to say that there's something about living in public that accentuates plain old sex. My bathroom, with the camera covered, we figured we were safe. And that was part of their turn on, is because you know you're kind of hiding from the people. They're there, but they know you're in the bathroom. They know something's up. There's some great turn on that. And we went kind of further than we normally had gone. Now, the way that the automated cameras work, it takes the last signal and keeps the sound on. They were all listening. Every whisper, every little whisper in the ear, whatever. And we're talkers. We talk in sex. I would call myself a very gifted amateur businessman. Very gifted, as good as you can get. I worked a lot of little jobs all my life. I worked as a dishwasher on my way to New York, and then I came to New York with $900. My first fortune was made from Jupiter Communications. I specialized in the internet. And as the internet started hitting, I was a regular on CNN, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, USA Today, the Los Angeles Times, International Press, etc., etc. You know, I knew exactly what I was doing. When it went public, I sat there and I watched it go from 21 to 40. You could just watch your wealth grow. Literally, I watched myself be worth, at a moment in time, $36 million. You don't believe it. It's irrational to you. In the subsequent 2 years, when I've now down to $3 or $4 million, if it ever happens again, I've already gone through my nouveau riche stage. It's been quite a learning experience.
How much money did you lose while you were living in public?
Oh, $12, $14 million. My grandmother on my mom's side had a stroke. All my brothers and sisters went and visited her in the hospital. Stroked out. She was conscious but couldn't do anything. I love my grandmother, and I just didn't want to see her like that. So I worked out a gig where I was on a network news show. I did the piece. I found out when it was on, called the nursing home, told them to make sure that my grandmother watched with all the other, invalids. Show went on. Next day, she died. I called her up and said, hey, I'm on network television. She was with all these other people, and I did the coolest visit.
Putting yourself on TV as a gift of love.
Yeah, pretty much. There are two types of people who live in public. There's the Tanya category, who tends to integrate with the audience or the watchers. They like to be called observers. And then there's the Josh people who just want to be observed. I just want to know they're there. I don't really want to talk to them much. Once in a while, I'll say hi and I'll see that they're there and just connect a little bit. I had one major fight with Tanya. It was the one where I accused her of being boring in bed. We took the gloves off, and it was sort of like, screw the watchers. Anything we could think of to hurt the other person, we did. The moment the fight ends, the first thing we did is rush to our respective corners, which were our terminals, to see everyone's viewpoint on how the fight went. And that was more interesting than the fight.
So what kind of feedback did you get?
They talked to her about that, not me. She changed. She changed, not me. Her approach to sex changed. And, lo and behold, the sex wasn't boring anymore. Just FYI. They understand my life better than I do. They are objective about the things that I'm doing. And sometimes they want to have input. They're jonesing to make me do things. They would bring up all the times that I didn't wash my hands after using the bathroom, which is a very odd experience. It's a definite reminder that they're watching you do your very intimate functions. As much as I try to hide everything, they still can tell. Big Brother isn't a person, as it turns out. It's the collective consciousness that watches. After a while, you just go and wash your hands. It's not worth the trouble. People will literally be purchasing slices of my life. There'll be tapes of my life stacked up. If you're a collector, you'll collect tape 233. Me sleeping, or me screwing, or Tanya changing her clothes. You'll collect a piece of life. So part of my product line has to incorporate me with a filled up soul and me with an empty soul. And everything else between the girlfriend, the maid, the cats, the good friends, the betrayals, the bill collectors on the phone, the stockbroker on the phone. I have to have a complete product line. You're beating your husband, and you don't know why you're doing it. Go back to the shelf 2 generations back, 2010, you're in, say, 2070, your grandmother and how she treated your grandfather on your mother's side, not your father's side, because you know it didn't happen